Hello grade 4s and welcome to another science lesson. Today we'll be revising lesson number 3, what are weathering and erosions, and as well as lesson 4, how Earth's surface can change rapidly. So let's jump in right away. So lesson 3, we will be looking at how Earth's surface looks like, what are landforms, what's weathering, chemical weathering and physical weathering, what is erosion and deposition. So Earth's surface looks like, what does Earth's surface look like? Well, how does Earth's surface look like? Most of Earth's surface is covered with 70% of water, and the remaining 30% is the land masses that we see. So the crust is broken into many large plates that move slowly relative to each other. So mountain ranges form when two plates collide and their edges are forced upwards. So Earth's surface changes rapidly through these tectonic plates that move upwards, and then when they move upwards, or these molten magma pushes upwards, the tectonic plates move away from one another, but some places they collide with one another, forcing mountain ranges to form like these ones you see on the right hand side. So what are landforms? You get mountains, hills, plateaus, plains, and these are the main 4 types of landforms. So you get minor landforms as well, which includes buttes, canyons, valleys, and basins. So tectonic plates move under the Earth's surface, creating landforms by pushing up mountains and hills. What is weathering? Weathering is the breaking down of rocks, soil, and minerals, as well as wood and artificial minerals through contact with Earth's atmosphere, water, and biological organisms. So you get 2 types of weathering, chemical weathering and physical weathering. First of all, chemical weathering. Chemical weathering occurs when water dissolves minerals in a rock, producing new compounds. So this causes the rocks to dissolve and break down. For instance, if you see the statue here on the left-hand side, and it's photographed a few years back, you can see what weathering has done to it. This is because there are chemicals within rain that breaks down the rock. You can also find these in caves with stalagmites. Stalagmites are these formations that hang from the roof, which are due to water that dissolves the minerals inside the rocks and then carries it downwards, and these collect on the roof ceiling as well as the roof floor, or the floor of the cave. Physical weathering is a term used in science that refers to the geological process of rocks breaking apart without changing their chemical composition, like we've seen in the caves. This refers to repeated freezing and melting of water within small crevices in the cracks or rocks of the surface. So in this demonstration, we can see down here in number 1, the water collects in the rock, inside the rock crack. When it freezes, it expands and it forces the rock to crack even further. In the next season, the water might collect again and then further push the rock apart until the rock splits apart. Plants' roots can also split apart rocks if they find their way into small cracks. So if you look here, we can see that this plant has found its way inside this little crack. When the plant grows, it actually pushes this rock apart, which also causes it to break apart. That is physical weathering. Erosion. In the Earth science, erosion is an action of surface processes that removes soil, rock, or dissolved material from one location to the Earth's surface or crust and then transports it to another location. The deposit is called sediment. In these 2 pictures, we can see that there were a lot of erosion due to water that washed away the soil. And this you can see clearly on the hillside that the soil has been eroded away from the surface. And the deposit is called sediment. So deposition is actually the deposit. Deposition is the geological process in which sediment, soil, and rocks are added to the landform or mass. Wind, ice, water, and gravity transport previously weathered surfaces material, which at the loss of enough kinetic energy in the fluid is deposited in layers of sediment. So you can see on the mountain sides, there's a lot of erosion that takes place by weathering. So there are two types of weathering. It's chemical weathering or physical weathering. So when it erodes away, that is carried by rivers and deposited on the bottom as seen in these two pictures on the bottom. That's it for lesson number 3. So let's carry on to lesson number 4. Lesson number 4 is in your science books on page number 261. So how can Earth's surface change rapidly? Earth's moving tectonic plates or moving plates. So we can see that the Earth is not made up of a solid state. It is in the middle a molten lava, and this changes rapidly by the movement. So in this picture, we can see the lines that represents the tectonic plates. And those lines move towards or away from one another. Volcanoes. In this picture, we can see that volcanoes can change rapidly. So when a volcano erupts, it can change the landscape by blowing its top away. Now, there's a lot of things that can happen. We can see that all these trees in Mount St. Helens in the 1980s were blown away by the sheer velocity of the molten ash and rock that was shot out by this volcano. We can see that it rapidly changed due to the lines that's drawn up here, and it just blew everything away. The volcanoes can deposit ash and rock all over the surrounding areas, which means it suffocates or it can change the surface of the Earth very rapidly. So earthquakes. Earthquakes, there are 3 different types of earthquakes or changes in the tectonic plates that move. You get divergent, which means these 2 plates move away from one another. Then you get convergent, which means they move towards one another, and transform, which means they will move opposite one another. So when you get divergent, the Earth can rip apart and split. Convergent pushes mountains up, and transform means that the plates just scrape next to one another. Now this is a dramatic divergent picture of how the Earth is rapidly tearing itself apart. Then you get landslides. Now, landslides is where you get loose soil on a steep hill. Now that loose soil gets loosened even more by rain, and that rain seeps through to the loose soil and then causes that to slide down and sometimes causing much damage. Floods is also another way that we can find how Earth changes its surface very rapidly. So rapidly means very quickly. So in a very short time, there can be a lot of rainfall causing floods, which is devastating to the surrounding areas. And the last one is droughts. Droughts is where you have no rainfall or little rainfall over a long period of time, which causes a lot of devastation that can have an effect on the surrounding areas. So how Earth's surface can change rapidly is through Earth's moving plates, volcanoes, earthquakes, landslides, floods, and droughts. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson, and then I will see you again shortly.